Here, the first time when we launched it, we launched as we called it News in Shorts. Um, Obviously, that was the time when things like Make My Trip, like very obvious sounding brand names was very famous, and it's easy for the consumer to understand as well. So we were like News in Short, but it didn't have that zing to it. Like just saying News in Short meant like it didn't have the zing to it. So we thought, okay, let's add the S in the end. Let's call it News in Shorts. And uh, at that today, YouTube Shorts is a very popular terminology, right? Like everybody knows what shorts would mean. But at that point of time, it was not. And soon we realized that the format and the form factor has power to go beyond news into much varied forms of content. So we kind of rebranded within, I think, 1 or 2 years to Inshorts, which was that we will, and our tagline was stay informed, that we will keep you informed. So, yeah.
So now, how did you three meet?
So Azhar and I go back to school days. We did our coaching together in the same coaching institute, and Azhar and Anune were batchmates in IIT Delhi, and I was studying at IIT Kharagpur, but my parents used to live in Delhi, and I used to keep coming back, and always we used to chat that initially the thought process was that we'll all get 9 pointers in college and then we'll go for masters and PhD programs. Like we were very academically minded that way. But unfortunately, ठीक है, 5 point सम्मन तो नहीं हुआ. 7 pointers थे हम, तो 7 pointers maybe it's very hard to get to a Ivy League masters program. So we thought और कौन से avenues हैं जहाँ पे अच्छा innovative काम कर सकते हैं, right? And we thought कि यार online there is so much space. We were very inspired by products like Wikipedia, Facebook that was entering India at that point of time or had recently entered in India. And we were like यार ये चीजें इंडिया से क्यों नहीं बिल्ड हो सकती, कुछ नया इंडिया से बिल्ड हो सकता है, कंज्यूमर प्रोडक्ट भी इंडिया से बिल्ड हो सकता है, which is unique. And that's how we started working on a few products, and in shorts took off thanks to
So,
the consumers'
and
graces.
Deepit, you make it sound so easy. Uh, what were the other ideas you rejected? You said because the online revolution was happening, there were other businesses that had started. What were the other ideas that you rejected?
So I think for one thing that we learned before launching Inshorts, we had started this other product for or digitizing notice boards. Like notice boards is available everywhere, right? Like colleges, office buildings, everywhere. And we were like, yeah, अभी भी लोग ये poster चिपकाने इधर उधर घूमते क्यों रहते हैं, right? Why is that not digitized? We have Facebook groups. So we made that product. एक साल बाद समझ में आया कि अभी, and we went and pitched to colleges. They said we don't even have an ERP solution yet. So the first lesson that we learned there was ki don't build something in your own head. First put something out there, see what the consumers are saying. So that taught us a very critical lesson. आज के दिन में Y Combinator and all these programs are out there. They have so much video content. Everybody will tell you do an MVP, do something. First put it out there in the audience and see how the consumer is reacting to it. But that sort of thought process came to us after spending 1 year launching a product and knowing that it won't succeed. So then the second idea that we wanted was कि यार Inshorts try करते हैं. उससे पहले हमने कुछ medical में भी try किया था, but we were like कि यार we will only build things which we can test quickly and reject कि ये चल रहा है कि नहीं चल रहा. And before even writing a single piece of code, we launched Inshorts or News Inshorts then as a Facebook page. And हम लोग खुद short articles we used to post on the Facebook page to test whether people are even liking the service. Then one of the users told us you should build a mobile app. Then we built a mobile app, and then continuously consumer kind of brought out the right forward. So I personally think that every consumer product is a product of its time, and if you are actively listening to the consumer will actually bring out the right product from us entrepreneurs in the consumer space. It is very hard to predict what will work and what will not work in the consumer space. We have to constantly test multiple things. Like even today, it's been 11 years, but we've probably tested 25 products. And 2 products have succeeded. One is Inshorts and one is Public, which is a hyper-local social media. But there are probably 10 times more products out there which we have tested and we have rejected.
Tell us about one product that you put out, it didn't work, and you pulled back.
So we launched this product called, I'll tell you what Public was before
Yeah,
public,
I am
like,
aware. You
yeah,
wanted to build because a lot of my journalist friends called me Inshorts, and I knew Azhar because of
yeah,
business world. So they called me. You know him. We saw him with you on some award. Azhar had applied for a 40 under 40s, I think, 5 years back or
yeah.
four, and can they want journalists, right? So can you recommend me? So that's how I noticed the product. But why don't you tell them about the product, what it
Yeah.
was?
So the current version of public is a hyper local social media, which is where people from tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities who want to create content for their localities can start posting videos online. And that is where we have got a very high retention. But the first version of this product, which we launched in January 2019, was we were trying to make a video Twitter, right? Why can't people comment, react, everything? Why can't all of that happen on the Twitter phenomenon happen on video? We launched it. We realized that on video, when people are commenting and reacting, first of all, the number of people who comment and react is very, very low, because text is very easy, right? Like aap kahin pe bhi baithe ho, you can just text and like reply and respond to someone. Video is very difficult. Second is the number of conversations that are required for a video conversation to happen, they are very, very limited. Mostly these are national politics kind of issues. But as soon as you make it hyper local, the number of conversations becomes very diverse. Like every locality, every region has a conversation to be had. Like there are conversations to be had. So that we pivoted public to this new opportunity, and that took off. So you have to constantly test and test and test and test, and not be emotional about, okay, this is I thought this is one big idea, but maybe that doesn't work. Or even to scale up idea, you need to constantly test and find out how to grow that idea.
Now, Deepit, how do you, the attention spans are coming down, right? We have multiple sources of even concise news. We have multiple sources of news. The attention economy is the biggest economy. Attention is the biggest currency. How do you make sure that in shorts and the content that in shorts does is relevant? Is there an algorithm? Have you been using AI tools for a while? Do you have a sense of what works in the market? How do you decide that?
Yeah, I think all of that. Plus, I think there needs to be some sort of foresight also where the market is going. We might have been operating in a certain way in our first 5 years. Next 5 years, we had to completely change the way we have been operating. And now with AI, Gen AI, and who knows, like quantum computing is around the corner, right? Maybe the entire paradigm of internet is going to change in the next 10 years. So the only way to do it is that you build a machinery where the organization knows how to test, evolve fast. Like institutionalizing evolution is very, very hard, and that is something that we've kind of figured out, that how to constantly test for consumer insights and opportunities of growth, and making sure that even if you have to reinvent your cost structures, your content creation models, your personalization, like to and update it to its latest kind of um, state of the art technology. You have to be constant. None of this happens overnight. You have to constantly keep trying, and suddenly one thing will work. Then keep trying, and suddenly one thing will work, and that's how consumer companies are built.
Now, Deepit, we're an economy, the advertising economy, and this year we crossed $1 trillion in advertising spend. The AdX became $1 trillion globally. $650 billion in digital. Out of that, two players, don't have to name them, very obvious, have 450 billion. In rest have 200 billion. Do you think companies like yours will someday be able to break into this duopoly? Do you have that ambition? I remember meeting Aparmaya Radhakrishnan, and I told him you have an opportunity to go become the Twitter in Indian languages. Sadly, it hasn't worked out. But do you think ever a company like yours from India will become a global play?
I definitely think so, and I think it's already happening. I don't know whether you know about this company called Pocket FM,
Of
right?
course.
So it is the first consumer company in India which within 4 years has gone and made a large market in the US. Then there's another company, I don't know whether you guys know about it. It is called Dashtun, right? Uh,
Pocket FM is also a large advertiser with us, and we've known them from the day they started,
yeah,
and
so
we've covered them. So
absolutely. So the AI revolution and the way it is changing content creation gives opportunities to Indian
tell them about
entrepreneurs.
Dashtone.
Yeah, so Dashtune is a company which has decreased the cost of web comic creation by 90% because of AI workflows, right? So suddenly, if you are a creator and you understand the web comic format, the uh, earlier story writing was one thing. A lot of people used to write fiction and post on Wattpad and things like that. But now that same writer can also create a web comic at 1/100th amount of cost and earn revenue. And there is a huge global market for people who consume web comics and anime and that sort of content, right? So Dashtune has just democratized that, and they will have the edge in this market globally. So I'm just very happy that all of these people have been people who have like come to us. Like I've been advising them, and like the phenomenon of Indian consumer internet is just getting started.
Deepit, with the flip side of an advertising-led model is the advertisers pay for content, and the content becomes a certain. That's what happened to news, right? Vis-a-vis the consumers, the subscribers paying. Do you think in the kind of business you operate, there'll ever be a subscription-based service? And I know you're trying to get advertising from our conversation a couple of months back. I have some idea of your revenues, and it's going well and it's growing, but it's a slow climb. So, do you think you're ever likely to get pivot to a model which is subscription led?
Absolutely. I think the future, like if you see how content is getting successfully monetized in India or consumer companies, mostly are ads plus consumer transactions. Now, that consumer transaction can be both micro transactions or subscriptions, depending on what is the domain of business one is in. I personally feel that microtransactions gives us is showing us an opportunity, especially with UPI and UPI auto pay in India.
Microtransactions, I'm sure all you understand. You only want to read one article on Inshorts.
Yeah,
There is a headline coming, you pay instantly and you read that. You don't have to subscribe to a Rahul to a monthly thing. I'm glad you showed up today. Didn't show up at your book's friend's book launch, who you introduced me to. So clearly, Deepit, you are special, and his friend is not. But Rahul, that's what micro content is.
yeah.
But are the numbers in micro payments and micro content large enough?
Yes, I think I would not be surprised. Please correct me if my claim is wrong. But my claim is in India already microtransaction revenue on
For content?
for content is higher than subscription revenue, except for OT. If you leave OTTs aside, uh, everything else combined, microtransaction is higher than subscription revenue.
Fantastic. So clearly, will 2025 see in shorts going pay?
Let's see what content we launch for the paid version.
And now let's come to how did you pivot in public? You told us how public started, what was the intention, and then you pivoted to being a hyper local content creating app. How did that transition happen? Take us through that journey.
Yeah, so when we launched public, the initial hypothesis was that we'll make national conversations happen on in video format. But soon we realized that the number of topics that people are engaging with are very low, right? So the next obvious, so I'm very personally very driven by asking the question why, not advocating for Simon Sinek necessarily, but obviously asking the question why actually takes us to fundamentals of the business, right? Like or fundamentals of content creation or social media. So when we started asking what makes people have conversations online, the biggest kind of anchoring point was relatability, right? That I am able to relate to what you say or what you have to say. And relatability has multiple aspects. Are you might be co-workers, you might be in the same industry, you might be living in the same space, you might have same alumni groups. And we explored all of these relatability factors and try to understand who is occupying, which player is occupying what kind of relatability factor. Like LinkedIn is occupying a lot of the work related and alumni
And
group
time
kind of.
pass.
Yeah, that,
LinkedIn's worked and time pass. They should rebrand themselves and
Yeah.
pay me a fee.
Yeah, now with games, definitely. I think that's what makes me go there every day. But there were some local in India was complete, like location was completely untouched territory in India, where that relatability factor was completely untouched. So we thought, why not just go all in on location? And there were huge network effects also in location play, because in a particular location, if you start getting the biggest viewership, the new content creator, that budding content creator in that location, will also come to your platform,
Gravitate to your platform.
gravitate to your platform, and that creates more content, and the flywheel kind of goes in. So
You know, because of what you do, you sit on huge amounts of data. Data leads to insights. We're in the fag end of December. We're on 11th December. We still have 20 days to go to into 2025. But give us some top line trends you see from the data that has emerged in the last few months. Give us a peek into the future.
so I'll give you an example. On election counting day, just 2 days before that, we said on public, we will not give any prime spot to national election results. We took a big bet. We said, let's experiment with only prime spot to local election results. You can't, it's an app only platform. People don't download apps out of the blue. But you won't believe, our DAUs, our daily active users, doubled on the election counting day, just because no other application or media portal or anyone was focusing very strongly on your location and results in your nearby location, right? So counting day was big. It was big for most media. It was probably 20-30% higher engagement and higher viewership. Probably TV, it was even higher. But just because we were able to do hyper local and across so many 650 districts, we understood, or so many 540 seats, I think, we understood that that is the power that hyperlocal has, right? And then we replicated that same format across many state elections as well, and the response has been phenomenal. So that took us to the new insights that people want everything. People want local mandi rates. Like a large cohort of users will want, who are from the farming background or farming communities, will want local mandi rates. Some people will want electricity outage data, or when will the electricity outages be there. Some people will do everything else, and all of this, if you can solve in a tech led way, right, and make it available to all users across India in their locations, it is crazy amount of traction that we get. So content is just one part, but there is so much more data that even people want, right? Right from voting results to counting day results to everything else. I think people are just getting started as to
Give
understanding
us
the
one
local
or two more
economies.
ideas or applications that came or insights that came from some other things that you saw.
So, for example, one more thing that we realized was that a lot of people want to. There's a huge demand in India for astrology, right? Like the amount of demand there is for astrology, we can't, like, even even a local astrologer sitting in a tier 3 city, if that person creates content, like he's actually an influencer of that district, the local biggest astrologer of the district, everybody knows their name. He comes on video, people are crazy about it, right? So the level of demand and level of trust people have on astrology and as a profession is crazy. So I think things like these, like, and that is what is the beauty of building from India, right? Building consumer platforms from India, the insights that you are delving on is totally just Indian insights, and building on Indian insights, right? And uh, location playbook, a lot of people have tried to execute globally. We are ambitious. Short news also something a lot of people have tried globally, none of them have worked. So that's why we are very, very excited about our opportunities in the global market as well.
In the first time I heard about their thing, I went to the market, I bought some shorts and I was watching news in shorts. That's what, but I realized it's not that. But thank you. I still have that shorts, but I'm just kidding. Uh, and I have a very original joke on it. Me, Amit, and Nawal started exchange for media. You saw Nawal, Amit does something else, but he's a very close friend of ours. And we started in my father's and mother's house, and we were the second floor. And this is a real story. This I'm not making up. And we would meet on Saturday, Sunday. Sunil, you heard this story. And my father doesn't talk that much, but when he talks, he's very pally with Naval and Amit. And I was 28 and a half. Amit was 27 and Naval was 26. And Amit is my MDI batchmate. Naval is my engineering friend, younger to me by 2 years. Two batches, he's younger to me by 3 years. But and so they would one Saturday they came in shorts. So my dad has lots of Punjabi jokes, very very vegetarian, uh, and he said to them, कि यार देखो ऐसे, and he is a person who shaves every day, who dresses up, and my late mom, she passed away 48 days back. She would also dress up every day and so on and so forth. So my dad said to Amit and Naval कि यार तुम ये कैसे आ गए हो? तो उन्होंने बोला अंकल आज सैटरडे है, हाफ डे, हाफ शॉर्ट्स. तो माय डैड सेड इन पंजाबी कि कल मत आना यार, कल संडे है. So talking to you, I remembered this thing that happened, but this is a real one. Coming back to in shorts and in the marketing and technology domain, now there are other players. I don't want to take their name. How do you define your competition? As I said, there is a premium on attention. There's a premium on discovering and staying on a certain platform.
Yeah.
Because the beauty about the environment is there's new ideas, new innovations, better, faster, some more sub niche, niche within a niche. So give us a sense, how do you benchmark yourself? How do you define your competition?
So I think we've been like, I feel competition is good. I personally don't feel that competition is bad, because competition sometimes teaches you, sometimes keeps
Who's
you on
your
your.
competition?
I would say everybody is my competition. I would say Reddit is my competition. Twitter is my competition, right? Other news products are my competition. So, uh, look, small communities, even WhatsApp groups are my competition, because a lot of the people sitting here who do not have Inshorts on their phones would probably be getting Inshorts forwards on their phones via WhatsApp, right? And that is leading them to not download a product like Inshorts. So, I think there are lots of competition, and the way each person is attempting the problem of information and staying informed is very very different. Reddit has a very different approach, which they have refined over many many years. Twitter has a very different approach. So it is very very important to figure out and kind of commit to a direction. Like, you have to test small things, but you also have to commit to a direction, because as a content platform company, either one can create more and more IPs and then try to be a Netflix, or as a content platform company, one can try to decrease their incremental cost of content creation and try to be a Twitter or a Reddit. They have zero cost of incremental content creation, and Netflix have very high cost of incremental content creation, but they are investing that because they are creating IPs. So there are only two ways to go here, like in terms of the industry phenomenon. And then you have to select your role, that whether you will be a platform, an aggregator, a producer, or a whatever in between, right? So I think if one has clarity as to what layer and what is your USP, I think that creates and protects your niche, because frankly speaking, there is a reason why not everybody is on Twitter, right? Because ultimately the problem statement that we were trying to solve is that attention span is low, and for consuming information, most portals are very overwhelming for a lot of people. That's just too much, right? How do I know and what to not
Now
know?
let me ask you another question. There is, for the last 6 years, this issue of two large players eating everybody's breakfast, lunch, dinner,
Yeah.
and not giving them their fair share of revenues. How much of the content you do is original and how much is sourced?
So for us, since we have chosen to be the a tech platform, all our content is sourced, and all our content is sourced via legally valid partnership agreements. I personally think that there is no circumventing around it. One should have legally valid partnership agreements with due credits and due sourcing. I have a strong view on that.
I have to tell you, and I am a little self-pat here, Sunil and Tasmai and Naval. One day I met him for lunch at Imperial or Tea. He didn't have lunch, though I invited him for lunch. And we were chatting many things, generally getting to know, and then he said, I have one agenda with you. He said that we've identified in the advertising, marketing, media space, we want to tie up with you. And I said, why us? He said, because in every space we're tying up with a leader, you're the leader. So it was very, very gratifying, though, we have a long way to go and we have a lot to improve. But thank you, Deepit, for that. My last three questions. How did you find an investor? How
So
did you get to these three guys?
it's
Manish,
a very interesting story.
yeah. I know two of them, not
Uh,
very well, but decently well.
so we had our first round of investment was from Times Internet. So they used to run this program called T Labs.
Yeah, I went and spoke there.
Yes, yes,
My classmate Richa Agarwal once invited me.
yes. So from T Labs, the investment was very small. So we soon like खत्म हो गए पैसे, and we were in the last week कि अब अगले हफ्ते बंद होने वाली है company, and somehow we made figure out a pitch that premium users retain our product much more. I wrote to all investors we had ever met. One person responded. That one person connected us to one other person, which was Gaurav and Ankush, and that deal happened. And butterfly effect after that.
Yeah, they just did their IPO, right?
Yes.
They just did their IPO. So अब आपका IPO कब आ रहा है?
हमारा IPO, we'll let you know when we are well placed to do an IPO.
So what to expect from Inshorts in 2025?
I think in 2025, look forward to more innovation on our existing products. Look forward to a few more test products. Probably won't know that you are being tested on. You'll probably download one of our apps because we test it through other accounts. But most likely, we'll have something new coming up this year.
My last question, and then we'll take some audience questions. I'm sure Azhar is about to join. And now our industry is the advertising industry. You come from the tech background, and I know within the three partners, he also has the responsibility for revenue, right? Correct me. That's what you told me that day. I was having lunch with my ex-boss, Anuj Puri and Rohin Shah of Enarok. Enarok is Anuj and Rohin in one of the buildings in BKC in Mumbai. When you were getting in, I was getting out, and then we chatted. How's it been dealing with advertisers, media agencies? How come you not lost your hair?
I'm losing some. Good that I have makes me still happy that I have not lost it completely, but I'm losing some.
Tell us, how do you find monetizing? Because you have to go to brands,
Yeah.
you have to go to media agencies, which are the guardians of media investment for brands. Give us a sense, how's been that? Creating a product, getting audience, that's one part. Monetizing, and you've been doing it actively for last 6, 7 years.
Yeah. So I think one thing that we've really learned on the job, practically completely on the job, is that we've realized that client servicing and turning around turnkey solutions or bespoke solutions for clients, right, is really, really, really very important. So even advertisers, right, like but the reason why Inshorts exists is because of the quality of ads that you see on Inshorts platform, right? Sometimes even our users come and tell us that our ads are like very sleek and very good, well made, right? So that is a very, very important step. That how the behind
It's
the
not
scenes,
intrusive,
it's not intrusive.
interesting enough,
Yes,
and still is consumed.
yes, and we were the first ones in India. New York Times was the first one in the US. We were the first one in India to create actually a brand solutioning team inside the company, way before it was the norm in the wider industry, right? So, brand solutioning and tech led brand solutioning is something that is very, very key to us. And so, that is something that we've done. As of today, we don't have to create something turnkey. We have a SKU list of almost 200 SKUs that we can turn around at a very fast time. We get a demand today, we can take it live tomorrow. A very engaging. Sometimes it is like you have to say something in the ad, and based on your voice it will recognize and respond in a certain way. Sometimes it is कि आपको देखेगा कि कोई कॉल कर रहा है आपको, right? Like for example, we launched Bard of Blood with Netflix. You swiped up and you saw some unknown caller calling you. When you picked up, you got instructions for your next mission. You know, and it's a very engaging format. So that is something that we kind of deliver for brands that nobody else does in our space.
Thank you, Deepit. We have the pleasure of having Mr. Deepit Purkayastha. Please give him a big round of applause for being candid. And I have enjoyed this conversation.